My mate, the alpha heir Nolan, chose a rogue over me, days before our mating ceremony. But he still wants my power. He still expects me to sacrifice myself for the pack. Nolan brought that rogue, Skylar, home with him. But the Moon Goddess Festival still needed me, the future Luna, to lead it. Pack members, tonight enough. Nolan's voice slashed through my blessing. The great hall fell dead silent. Hundreds of pairs of wolf eyes darted between me and him. I stood on the high platform, the parchment in my hand trembling, but I forced my spine straight. I weren't finished, Nolan, I said. I fought to keep my voice steady, betraying nothing. He rose to his feet. Every step he took toward me was a crushing wave of alpha power. A predator stalking his prey. I'm sick of these empty, hollow words. His eyes blazed with a manic fire. The ancestors' glory? Traditional virtues? That's all talk for the weak. Behind him, Skylar let out a low mocking purr. It was the sound of a predator toying with its food, dripping with contempt. Look at you, all you so-called nobles. Nolan's gaze swept over the crowd before landing on me, sharp and piercing as a shard of ice. Contempt dripped from his every glance. Always talking about bloodlines. But what do you have besides your titles? Who here has actually torn out an enemy's throat with their own claws? A few young she-wolves lowered their heads in shame. Nolan, watch your words. Alpha King Magnus, his father, spoke slowly from the head table. His voice held an authority that could not be questioned. But Nolan completely ignored him. Father, let me introduce you to a real warrior. He yanked Skylar forward. She's killed 37 enemies with her bare hands. 15 of them? She tore their throats out with her teeth. Skylar ran her tongue over her crimson lips. The move was wild, a raw, primal temptation. Want to see what real strength looks like? Her voice was husky and sexy. It was a raw, carnal invitation that hooked its claws into the heart of every male wolf in the room. The crowd began to stir, a low hum of whispers rising. Show us. Magnus' voice was deep and final. A demonstration. Now, 2 powerfully built guards were shoved forward. They tried to hide the fear on their faces, but their trembling limbs betrayed them. Skylar slowly peeled off her cheap jacket, revealing a body coiled with lean, deadly muscle. Her muscles gleamed under the moonlight, every curve a promise of deadly beauty. Begin, Magnus ordered. The first guard didn't even have time to raise a defense. Skylar's figure became a blur, lunging at him. Her claws shot out, swiping across his chest. Hot blood sprayed, staining the cold stone platform. The second guard tried a sneak attack from behind, but Skylar didn't even turn. A backward elbow strike caught him square in the face. The sickening crack of breaking bone echoed through the hall in less than 30 seconds. Both guards were on the ground, groaning in pain, their will to fight broken. Skylar stood in a small pool of blood, her chest heaving. She looked at Nolan, her eyes filled with a raw mix of desire and submission. Nolan's pupils dilated. His breathing grew heavy. The sight of blood and violence sent a wave of raw lust through him. His sense soured with raw, undisguised lust. This, he said, his voice hoarse with lust, is what a real Luna should be. This is the kind of power that can stand with me. Magnus slowly rose. The hall was utterly silent. Nolan, you are the sole alpha heir of the Silver Moon Pack. Remember who you are. Nolan looked at me. I thought he would remember our upcoming ceremony, his promises to me under the moon. But he walked straight to Magnus and dropped to one knee. Father, I ask for your permission. His voice trembled with excitement. Let me mate with Skylar. Make her my Luna. My only Luna. The hall fell silent again. Every eye was on me, pity, scorn, and glee. I would give up my right as alpha heir for her. I don't care. Magnus' face turned dark as a storm. Just then, Skylar let out a heart-wrenching scream. She pulled a silver dagger from her waist and pressed it to her own throat. No! Large tears welled in her eyes, beautiful and heartbreaking. I can't be the reason you and your father fight. I can't ruin your future. Skylar, don't. Nolan lunged for her in a panic. I'd rather die than see you lose everything for me. Her performance was flawless. Every trembling word struck a chord with the wolves in the crowd. They were completely captivated by this drama of sacrificial love. Nolan held her tight, then turned to Magnus, his eyes pleading. Father, there's a way to have it all. His gaze shifted to me, cold and calculating. Skylar can be my senior advisor. The Luna title, I can still leave that for Della. Gasps filled the room. This was the ultimate humiliation. The bond between an alpha and his Luna is sacred. The mating bond links our very souls, our power. A Luna isn't just the alpha's mate. She's the soul of the pack. And this senior advisor position? It was unheard of. Just a fancy name for a publicly sanctioned mistress, that he was basically announcing to the entire pack that I, Della, his future Luna, was nothing more than a tool, a broodmare to give him a bloodline and power. And that his true soulmate, the one who would fight by his side, was this rogue that he took my pride, my honor, and ground it to dust in that single moment. The fury in Magnus' eyes was so hot it could have burned me alive. How dare you? But Nolan cut him off. Father and son locked eyes. For just a second. But I saw the unspoken agreement between them. Magnus wasn't angry for me. He was furious that Nolan had been so crude, airing their filthy plan out in the open like that. Father, he shouted, pointing at me, his voice twisted with a barely contained fury. How much longer will we be held back by this so-called pure bloodline? The future of this pack belongs to the strong, not to some woman's blood. She needs to hand over the heart of the pack now, and give control of the dire wolves back to the true alpha. I understood their act. I couldn't help but sneer. The pack raised me? My father was the alpha, the most powerful leader the Silver Moon pack had ever known. My mother, the most beloved Luna. But after an attack from a rival pack, they were both dead. Magnus, my father's former beta, became the new alpha. He'd promised the pack he would return the leadership to me when I came of age. Instead, he pushed his son on me, forcing a mating to secure his family's power. Della, I promise you will be the most cherished Luna. You and my son Nolan will rule this pack together, including the dire wolves. Nolan, growing up, he was always so gentle with me. When my parents died, he just stayed by my side while I cried. For my first shift, he brought me 1,000 moonflowers to celebrate. When a rogue attacked and I was hurt, he threw himself in front of me without a second thought. He fought for me. The night Magnus told him we were to mate, Nolan came back from the border after fighting off a rival pack. He was still covered in dirt and grime, but he came straight to my garden that he wrapped his arms around me from behind, resting his chin on the top of my head. His voice was tired, but so soft and full of contentment. Mate with me, Della, he'd said. This isn't about alliances. I just want to give you my heart. He kissed my forehead so gently, his eyes burning with sincerity. The Silver Moon pack is your home. You're our precious princess. You'll be the perfect Luna. And I believed him. I believed the man who grew up with me. The one who promised he'd always protect me. I even promised to give him the heart of the pack at our mating ceremony. So why did everything change after he brought Skylar back? He stopped smiling at me. The way he looks at me now, it's just cold, full of disgust. And now he's choosing that rogue, tying her to his side. He even said it in front of the whole pack that I was worthless, except for my bloodline. Was it because he'd found his true love? Was he just tired of pretending with me? A sharp pain twisted in my gut. A terrible thought started circling in my mind, over and over. Everything he did, it was all just to get the heart of the pack. Maybe all his kindness was an act. Every promise, just a lie to get my power. I was the fool. I fought back the sting in my nose and slowly got to my feet, my mind fixed on the mating ceremony. Just 3 days away. The mating ceremony is cancelled. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried through the entire hall. As of tonight, I, Della, reject you, Nolan. Our mating bond is broken, and I reserve the right to find a new mate. Nolan's face went rigid, his muscles tight. The madness in his eyes was about to spill over. You dare, he snarled. Della, don't even think about leaving me. I let out a cold, sharp laugh. My bloodline descends from the first alpha, I declared, my voice ringing with cold authority. It is a legacy of power. I will not taint it by sharing my mate with a rogue. Behind him, Skylar made a cat-like, mocking sound. Looks like our little princess has a bit of a temper, she purred into Nolan's ear. But some women just don't know how to face reality. Her words were a spark, fanning the flames of madness in Nolan's eyes. The reality is, without my bloodline, you are nothing. Without the heart, this pack is nothing. And only I hold the key. The crowd stirred. Unease spread like a plague. Magnus rose, his alpha command crashing down on me like a physical weight, trying to force me to my knees. Della. His voice was laced with a dangerous threat. The heart of the pack is precious. And because of that, you need to make certain sacrifices for the stability of the pack. I felt the naked threat in his words. What kind of sacrifices? Magnus didn't answer. He just gave me a look that sent a chill down my spine. The party is over, he announced to everyone. Dismissed. The pack members began to leave, but the tension in the air only grew thicker. Nolan walked toward me, his eyes a toxic mix of rage and a twisted, obsessive possession. Della, where do you think you can run? His voice was low and dangerous, coiling around me like a snake. You belong to me. Your body, your bloodline, you will always belong to me. He lunged, his fingers wrapping around my wrist like bands of steel. The pressure was enough to crush bone. Let go of me, I ordered coldly. I will never let you go. Yanked me against him, his hot body pressing into mine. Even if you won't be my Luna, you will never leave my side. I could feel the heat radiating from him. And that raw, untamed beastly desire. Skylar watched from the side, her eyes glinting with a sick excitement. Nolan, don't force her, she cooed, her concern fake. Maybe she's just not right for you. After all. She stepped closer, her hands slowly tracing the hard planes of Nolan's chest. Some women are just too cold. Like a block of ice. She looked at me, her gaze a blatant challenge. Not like me. I know how to please my man. Right in front of me, she stuck out her tongue and left a wet, hot trail on Nolan's neck that Nolan's breath hitched. A low, satisfied growl rumbled in his throat. My stomach turned. My heart felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand, a tearing pain shooting through me. But I forced myself to stay calm. I would not show weakness in front of them. Have some self-respect, Skylar. My voice was cold enough to freeze water. At least, not until my betrothal to Nolan has been officially dissolved by the pack elders. Just then, 2 guards appeared at my side. Lady Della, the Alpha King requests your presence in his office. I knew it wasn't a request. It was an order. I in the top floor office. It was just me and Magnus. Sit, Magnus said, pointing to the chair across from him. I remained standing, my back straight. I'd rather stand, Alpha. I've rejected Nolan. I want my freedom. What is the price? He sneered. Fine. I'll be direct. He turned to face me, his eyes sharp as a hawk's. Nolan is the future Alpha. He needs absolute power. And the source of that power, the heart of the pack, I know only your blood can awaken it. My heart sank. The heart of the pack. The one key to controlling the direwolf legion. In 3 days, at Nolan's succession ceremony, which is also your mating ceremony, Magnus' voice was devoid of emotion. You will perform the blood resonance with the heart of the pack. Your blood will be the key to activate it, transferring permanent control of the direwolves to Nolan. This is your duty to the pack. My blood ran cold. And what about me? You will be Nolan's Luna in name only. After that, you are free to leave. An empty shell. A vessel, used and discarded. That's what they wanted me to be. I refuse. You don't have a choice. His alpha command crashed down on me like an avalanche. I shook my head, rage and fear warring inside me. Magnus, you can't do this to me. My parents. Your parents are dead. He cut me off without mercy. And you are just a member of my pack now. You will obey your alpha's command. I felt a beast roaring in my chest, a fire of pure rage threatening to consume me. They died protecting this pack. Did they? A strange, cold light flickered in Magnus' eyes. His command intensified. The immense spiritual force slammed into my mind like a battering ram. The moontear crystal around my neck, my mother's last gift to me, began to vibrate. Violently, glowing faintly. It had always protected me from psychic attacks. It was her final shield. But Magnus' power was too strong. Cracked at a sharp sound echoed. The crystal shattered. The moment it broke, I heard my mother's final scream. It wasn't a vision. It was a feeling. The feeling of a cold blade piercing a heart. My father's enraged roar before he died. And Magnus' younger voice, cold and ecstatic. He stood over their bodies, holding a dripping blade, a vicious grin on his face. For the future of the Silver Moon Pack, your bloodline must be under my control. A chill so deep it froze the marrow in my bones. An abyss of horror opened up beneath me. It was him. It was always him. He was my parents' killer. All the humiliation, all the betrayal, all the injustice, it all made sense now. My world shattered. But I forced down the towering wave of hatred. I lowered my head, letting my hair hide the murderous intent blazing in my eyes. I understand. My voice trembled with the effort of suppression. For the good of the pack, I will accept this arrangement. Magnus watched my surrender with satisfaction and retracted his command. Good. In 3 days after the blood resonance ceremony, you will have your freedom. His voice was a cold blade, filled with the arrogance of a victor. I nodded silently, turned, and mechanically walked out of his office. One voice screamed in my mind. Freedom? I don't want the freedom they grant me. I want retribution. I want their blood. Magnus. Nolan. You want the power of my bloodline? I'll give it to you. I'll personally hold a grand ceremony for you. And then I will watch you burn to ash in the face of the power I give you. In 3 days on your coronation day, you will die. I returned to my empty home. On the wall, my parents' portrait hung silently. Their gentle smiles looked like a cruel joke in the cold moonlight. I finally collapsed, falling to my knees before them. I let the tears flow freely, my sobs the choked whimpers of a wounded animal. Grief and hatred were twin vultures, tearing me apart. But I knew this was not the time for weakness. I wiped my tears, and found the chest my father had left me before his last campaign. Inside I found it, the ancient bloodline codex, written in the old wolf tongue. It held the secrets of the heart of the pack. Blood is the key, but will is the lock. For the resonance ceremony to succeed, the offering must be given freely. Otherwise, the transfer of power is void. A cold, sharp smile touched my lips. My greatest weapon wasn't my bloodline. It was the pure, undiluted hatred now singing in my veins. Nolan, you want my power? I'll give it to you. Without hesitation, I sliced open my palm, letting my blood drip onto the yellowed parchment. By the name of the first blood, by the souls of my ancestors, I summoned the warriors loyal to my bloodline. The ancient words flowed from my lips. My blood seemed to ignite on the page, glowing with a faint red light. Less than 10 minutes later, a dozen swift, dark figures appeared outside my study window. They were silent, like ghosts melting into the night. They were the elite leaders of the dire wolves, each one possessing a terrifying power that surpassed a normal alpha. Lady Della. The leader knelt on one knee, his voice steady and firm. You summoned us. Garrett. I looked at the old warrior who had served my father for years. The scars on his face were a record of his valor. Do you remember the oath you swore to my bloodline? A fire of vengeance ignited in his eyes, a fire that could burn the world. We will never forget who our true masters are. Good. My voice was as cold as frost. In 3 days at Nolan's succession ceremony, you will await my command. As you command. They vanished as they came, disappearing like phantoms into the night. Then I opened a secret communication device, and entered an encrypted number known only to the pack's highest echelons. I had to act like nothing happened. Not until I could walk away for good. The next evening was the charity gala before the full moon rites, an event for all the pack's nobles. I wore a deep blue gown, elegant and regal. Guests arrived, and the hall filled with the clinking of glasses and false pleasantries. Then I saw them. Nolan was in a perfectly tailored black suit, so handsome that every young she-wolf in the room couldn't help but stare. And Skylar on his arm. She was poured into a blood-red dress, so tight it looked like a second skin, with a neckline plunging to her navel. It was a shameless, desperate cry for attention. Her long hair was a messy cascade over her shoulders. She radiated a cheap, primitive sort of sex appeal. In a formal noble gathering like this, her attire was a flagrant insult to everyone present. But Nolan seemed to enjoy the looks of lust other males were throwing at Skylar. Honored guests, welcome to the Silver Moon Manor, I said, raising my glass, my voice graceful and warm, as if last night had never happened. All eyes turned to me, including Nolan's. A complex, unreadable emotion flickered in his eyes. Tonight's charity auction will raise funds for the wolf orphanages in the Northern Territories, I continued. I hope you will all be generous. Applause broke out. I was about to say more when Skylar burst into loud, exaggerated laughter. Wow, what a formal speech, she said, her voice jarring in the quiet hall. No wonder Nolan thinks being with you is a total bore. She walked to the head table as if she owned the place. She picked up an apple and took a huge loud bite, the crunching sound echoing clearly. Miss Skylar, my voice turned to ice. Until the elders formally dissolve my betrothal to Nolan, pack law dictates you show me respect. That means you bow, and you address me as Lady Della. Or did you leave your manners back in the gutter you crawled out of? The hall went silent. Everyone knew this was an unbreakable rule of high society. Skylar stopped chewing. She turned to me slowly. Provocatively. Etiquette? She sneered, a bit of apple on her lip. I thought modern society had done away with all that feudal crap. Perhaps in the backwater packs you came from. I walked toward her, each step carrying the weight of my pureblood lineage. But in my home, etiquette is mandatory. I stopped in front of her, looking down, my eyes as cold as daggers. My voice dropped to a lethal whisper. Who told you that you could sit? Skylar didn't stand. Instead, she became more defiant. Why should I stand up? She challenged me. Nolan shot to his feet. That's enough, Della, he snarled, the sound more beast than man. You've gone too far. He strode toward me, his eyes burning with a mad fire. Skylar is my guest. You have no right to humiliate her like this. Humiliate her? I scoffed. I'm upholding the dignity of a pack she so clearly despises. Dignity. Nolan snarled. Is this your dignity? Acting so high and mighty. He grabbed my arm, his grip hard enough to shatter bone. Who the hell do you think you are? How noble do you think you are? Nolan, let me go. My voice was arctic. I won't. His gaze turned vicious. I know you promised my father you wouldn't cancel the ceremony. You're going to offer up the heart of the pack, right? Well, before you're officially mine, you'd better learn some humility. He whirled on the guards. Get over here. Hold her down. The guards looked at each other, hesitating. I said hold her down. Nolan bellowed that he pulled a silver branding iron from his belt. Since you're so obsessed with tradition, his voice dripped with malice, I'll give you a taste of it myself. The kind reserved for traitors and pack whores. The brand was the mark of shame, used for traitors and the lowest of omegas. You're a monster. I breathed, my voice trembling. You drove me insane, Della. He laughed, a sick, twisted sound. He thrust the iron into the fireplace. The metal quickly glowed red. Nolan, stop, an elder shouted. She is to be your Luna, your mate. So what? Nolan's eyes were wild and obsessive. A disobedient toy needs to be put in its place. Skylar watched, a cruel, excited light dancing in her eyes. Hold her shoulders. Nolan ordered that I end that moment. The power in my blood boiled over in a storm of rage. You dare touch me. My voice was low, laced with the ancient authority of my bloodline. The two guards' legs gave out. They fell to their knees, trembling. Nolan. I turned to him slowly. The dire wolves will never bow to an alpha who dares raise a hand against their true mistress. My power stunned him, but the madness had already consumed his reason. You dare threaten me with dire wolves. Then I'll do it myself. He raised the red-hot brand and charged at me, screaming. Just as the red-hot iron was about to touch my shoulder, a figure flashed between me and Nolan. It was Skylar. Nolan, my love, don't be rash. Her voice was deceptively soft, dripping with false concern. She is the future Luna, after all. Branding her would tarnish the Silver Moon name. Her words made Nolan freeze for a heartbeat. Skylar took her chance, leaning into his chest. She stood on her toes, pressing her lips close to his ear. The movement was subtle, but my wolf-sharp eyes missed nothing that I saw her mouth the words clearly. Heart of the pack that I in the next second. The madness in Nolan's eyes vanished. He lowered the brand. But my heart turned to ice. He didn't stop because of my title. He didn't stop for our past. He stopped for the power he craved, the power he needed me to sacrifice. It was a truth I already knew, but it shattered my heart all over again. Still, I let out a breath of relief. Just when I thought it was over, I realized he wasn't done with me. You're right, Skylar. Nolan stroked her hair, but his eyes locked on me like a viper. That's too crude. But disrespecting my true lover comes with a price. His gaze turned impossibly cruel. Della, shift to your wolf form. Bow your head to Skylar and apologize. The entire hall fell dead silent. Shift to my wolf and bow to a rogue. It was the ultimate insult to a pureblood that if my parents' spirits could see this, they would tear Nolan to shreds. I refuse, I hissed through my teeth. You don't have a choice. Nolan's patience was gone. He waved his hand, barking an order at the guards. Throw her into the forbidden land. Let her rot in the Wolfsbane swamp until she apologizes to Skylar. The forbidden land, my parents kept that place sealed. But after Magnus became Alpha, it became his personal playground for torturing prisoners and traitors. Its very air is a toxic mist, a poison that devours a wolf's strength. The mud is choked with silverthread vines, designed to make a wolf's very soul wither and die. Nolan, how could he do this to me? Several guards moved to restrain me at once. I fought back. The power of my pure bloodline flared again as I tried to throw them off. That's when Skylar lunged. Her nails flashed with an unnatural silver glint. Without a second of hesitation, she clawed at my arm. Della, why can't you just obey Nolan? He's the future Alpha. Her voice was sickly sweet, as if she were the reasonable one. But an icy, sharp pain shot through my entire body. I stared at her in disbelief. Silver poison, a poison that could cripple even the strongest Alpha in an instant. My power drained away like a bursting dam. Cold sweat soaked my body. My legs gave out, and I crumpled to the floor. Skylar looked down at me, her eyes filled with the thrill of victory. Nolan walked over. He used the toe of his boot to tilt my chin up, his face a mask of undisguised disgust and scorn. Don't look at me like that, Della. Letting you keep your title as Luna, letting you offer the heart of the pack at the ceremony, that's the greatest mercy I can show you. His words were a dull knife, sawing away at what was left of my pride. 2 guards dragged me from the brightly lit hall like a carcass. They threw me into the reeking, forbidden swamp. The cold sludge swallowed my body. The thick, toxic mist in the air rushed into my lungs, corroding me from the inside out. My wolf soul cried out in agony, that I could feel its power fading, withering away. Humiliation, betrayal, pain, everything swam into a black, buzzing void. I curled up in the mud, my consciousness drifting in and out of the darkness. In the final second, just before it all went black, I saw a blurred figure. A man in black appeared silently at the edge of the swamp. He dropped to one knee. He held out a letter, and his voice cut through the toxic air, sharp and clear. Lady Della, hold on. This is a potion to fight the silver poison. In 2 days, at the full moon, Alpha Jaden will come for you himself. 2 days later, the mating ceremony. Nolan didn't send his guards to drag me from the forbidden land until morning. He wouldn't even let me wash. They just threw a few buckets of water over my head, a crude rinse to get the filth off. Then they tossed it at my feet. The Luna ceremonial gown I used to dream of wearing. I was an offering for the gods, a sacrifice. They dragged me to the altar, my eyes completely dead. Nolan stood across from me, his eyes holding no love, only a greedy hunger for power. Skylar sat in the front row of the guest section, watching me with the triumphant, provocative smirk of a woman who had already won. Magnus' solemn voice rang out. The blood resonance will now begin. Guards presented an ancient stone box. Inside, resting quietly, was a faintly pulsing, dark red crystal, the heart of the pack. 2 guards held my arms, pinning me in place. An elder drew a silver knife across my wrist. Blood dripped. The crystal erupted in a blinding red light. I felt a violent, tearing sensation, as if the ritual were trying to shred the power from my very soul. Ecstasy flashed in Nolan's eyes, but I closed my own. In my mind, I built a fortress of pure ice. On its walls, I carved the image of my parents' loving faces, twisting into their final, agonized screams. My hatred wasn't just a lock. I had forged it into an unbreakable vault that I, Della, by the blood of the first, swear that I will never grant my power to my enemies. The torrent of power slammed against the ice wall and died. The crystal still shone brightly. Nolan felt a surge of immense energy. He felt the power, yes, but he was drinking from a poisoned chalice, utterly blind to the truth. He held a beautiful, empty shell. The true control of the dire wolves was locked securely in the depths of my bloodline. The red light faded. The heart of the pack grew calm, but its surface glowed even brighter than before. It was a success, an elder cried out excitedly. Nolan snatched the crystal from the elder's hands. He could feel the power thrumming within it, an illusion of absolute control. "It's mine now," he whispered, his face a mask of sick obsession. The ceremony wasn't over. Tradition dictated that we now exchange our mating vows. That I looked at him, my face pale, my voice weak. "Nolan, now we must." "Must what?" He cut me off. Brutally, not even bothering to look at me. He took the heart of the pack and walked straight to Skylar. He pulled her from her seat, and in front of the entire pack, gave her a deep, passionate kiss, as if they were the only two people in the world. A wave of scandalized gasps and furious whispers ripped through the hall. That it was the ultimate humiliation. To me, and to the blood of the first alpha. He held Skylar, and turned back to me with a cruel smile. "Della, your job is done," he said, his voice quiet but carrying to every corner of the room. "An empty shell, stripped of her power, is no longer worthy of being my Luna. Now get out of my sight." He took Skylar's hand and strode through the stunned crowd, leaving the temple, and me, behind without a single backward glance. The mating ceremony was over. I was left alone on the cold, high platform, like a piece of trash thrown away. Magnus gave me a cold look, his eyes full of a victor's pride. "You can go." The sound of cheering was deafening. The bonding was dead. But the celebration for their new alpha had just begun. I fled, feeling 1,000 eyes on me. Some held pity, others mockery. All of them felt like daggers. Only when the noise of the pack faded to nothing did I stop. A shadow detached itself from the trees. It was him. "Lady Della," he murmured, kneeling in the dirt. "Alpha Jaden awaits." I looked over my shoulder. My parents' home, their legacy twisted into a liar's throne. I would tear it all down. "Lead the way." "Get ready for." My surprise, Nolan's POV. Nolan held the heart of the pack high, basking in the cheers of the pack. He felt like the master of the world. He introduced Skylar to everyone, declaring her his one true love. Just then, a piercing alarm shattered the celebratory peace. A frantic messenger burst into the hall, his face pale with terror. "Alpha King. Urgent report. The Black Moon Pack has launched an all-out assault. They've torn a hole in our eastern defenses." Nolan's triumphant smirk vanished. Magnus' face grew grim. "What's the panic?" Nolan quickly composed himself. He raised the heart of the pack, his voice booming with confidence. "I possess the pack's greatest power." He closed his eyes, trying to command the dire wolf legion through the crystal. "Dire wolves. To me. Go to the eastern front. Rip our enemies to shreds." He gave the order. Silence. The crystal in his hand was warm and bright, but nothing happened. No response. The entire legion might as well have vanished from the earth. "What's happening?" Sweat beaded on Nolan's forehead. He tried again, pouring all of his mental energy into the crystal. It flickered once, then went quiet. "Alpha King. The enemy has broken through the second line of defense. They have our defense layouts." Another messenger burst in, his voice breaking. The crowd began to panic. The festive mood was replaced by terror. "Where are the dire wolves? Where are our strongest warriors? They're gone." Nolan's face went white. "Impossible. The ceremony was a success. I felt the power," he mumbled, unable to believe it. Magnus rushed to him, snatched the crystal, his eyes wild with disbelief. "How can this be?" "Della," he finally hissed, realization dawning like a black sun. It was her. "Where is that treacherous bitch?" He stormed off the platform and grabbed a serving girl. Tell me, where did Della go? The girl trembled. Lady Della, she left after the ceremony was cut short. I think an emissary from the Black Moon Pack came for her. Della's POV. Silver Moon's little princess. You came. Jaden stepped out from the Black Moon command tent, a dozen elite warriors behind him. The moonlight sharpened the angles of his face. He was the one I'd called 3 days ago. Alpha Jaden of the Black Moon. Funny. For over a decade, I'd thought his pack killed my parents. I'd hated him, sworn he was my sworn enemy. Now that lie was shattered, that he was no longer my enemy. He was my ally. I swung myself off my horse. Heavy footsteps followed. 30 massive dire wolves emerged from the forest, each the size of a grown bear. Their eyes glowed blood red in the dark. Their presence alone filled the air with the scent of death. Behind them followed their handlers, the elite warriors, each a match for an alpha. By the goddess, a Black Moon warrior breathed, his voice raw with awe. Those are the legendary dire wolves. Awe and excitement flashed in Jaden's eyes. They're even more terrifying than the stories. He walked toward me. No wonder Magnus was so desperate to control them. They answer only to me now. I stroked the head of the dire wolf beside me. It let out a low, rumbling purr. The call of blood can't be stolen. Good. Jaden stopped in front of me. With them, our chances of victory have doubled. Do you remember our deal? I asked. Of course. His gaze deepened. You provide the dire wolves and intel. I provide the army and resources. Together, we destroy the Silver Moon Pack. And one more thing. I'll be your mate. You help me get my revenge. The words made every Black Moon warrior nearby prick up their ears. Jaden waved a hand, dismissing them. Yes, he said, his voice softening. A mating in name. To make everyone believe you are my Luna. Just in name. Unless, he stepped closer, his alpha presence a tangible heat between us, a low growl rumbling in his chest. You decide you want more. I took a step back, keeping my distance. All I want right now is revenge. I know. He didn't press further. That's why I said we can talk about a real mating after you've taken back the Silver Moon Pack and avenged your parents. Are you sure? I stared into his eyes. An alpha willing to wait? His playful tone vanished, replaced by a raw intensity that stole the air from my lungs. I have wanted you since I was 13, Della. A few more days are nothing. The words sparked a complicated feeling in my chest, but I quickly suppressed it. This was no time for sentiment. I need your warriors to play along, I said, getting back to business. Magnus will use my identity to paint me as a traitor to the Silver Moon Pack. So we'll make them believe you were forced. Jaden understood immediately. The powerful alpha of the Black Moon Pack abducts the Silver Moon Princess, forcing her into a mating. Exactly, I sneered. That way, even if I stand with you, the pack will pity me, not hate me. Clever, he nodded in approval. So my coerce Luna, are you ready to go back and face your ex-mate? The mention of Nolan brought a flash of killing intent to my eyes. He's a footnote, I said, my voice dripping ice. A cautionary tale about pride and stupidity. I hear he's in a lot of pain right now. Jaden seemed to be enjoying this. Of course. I thought of Nolan's desperate face, and a wave of satisfaction washed over me. Without the dire wolves, that heart of the pack is useless. The Silver Moon defenses are collapsing one by one. Just then a messenger ran up. Alpha. Urgent report. Speak. The Silver Moon Pack sent an envoy. The messenger panted. Magnus is demanding to meet with you. He's willing to offer a large portion of their territory in exchange for Lady Della's safe return. Jaden and I looked at each other, the same cold smile on both our faces. Looks like our dear uncle is getting desperate, I mocked. Tell the envoy. Jaden's voice was full of menace, that the alpha of the Black Moon Pack does not negotiate with traitors who murder their allies. And one more thing, I added, my eyes burning with the fire of vengeance. Tell Magnus that I'm coming home, and I'm coming to collect the debt he owes me in blood. Nolan's POV. Another defensive line had fallen. Nolan stood in the war room, staring at the map on the wall. The blue markers representing the Silver Moon pack were disappearing one by one, replaced by the Black Moon's sigil. Damn it! He slammed his fist on the table. Why won't the dire wolves listen? The heart of the pack in his hand still glowed, but it did nothing. Nolan, stop torturing yourself. Skylar came up behind him, reaching out to touch his shoulder. Nolan violently shrugged her off. Don't touch me. Her beautiful face was suddenly repulsive. Every calculated seduction, every fake gasp of concern, it all curdled in his stomach. What's wrong? She feigned being hurt. I was just trying to comfort you. I don't need your comfort. Nolan turned his back on her. I need Della. Skylar's expression soured. You're still thinking about her? She betrayed you. She betrayed the entire pack. Shut up. She is much more useful than you. Just then Magnus strode into the war room, his face a thundercloud. We've lost 3 eastern strongholds, he said, his voice tight with rage. Casualties are heavy. What about the dire wolves? Nolan demanded. Why won't they answer the heart of the pack? We're going to see the shaman, Magnus said, glancing at Skylar. You get out. The shaman's tent smelled of herbs. The old white-haired woman was poring over ancient texts. Shaman, why has the heart of the pack failed? Nolan placed the crystal in front of her. She studied it for a long moment, then slowly shook her head. The heart has not failed, she rasped, her ancient eyes fixing on him. It has rejected you. What do you mean? The heart of the pack requires the blood heir's genuine consent. The shaman turned a page of ancient parchment. Della gave you her blood, but not her will. Her hatred has become a lock around the power, and you, Nolan, handed her the key. Nolan and Magnus looked at each other. They both knew what it meant. Damn it. Magnus exploded. This is your fault, you idiot. I warned you not to cast her aside so quickly. Then why didn't you stop me? Nolan shot back. When I was humiliating her, why didn't you stop me? Because I thought you were breaking her spirit to control her, not shattering it. You didn't just break her, you idiot. You forged her into the very weapon that will destroy us. Enough. The shaman cut them off. Arguing is useless now. What matters is how to get control of the dire wolves back. How? There are only 2 ways. The shaman held up 2 fingers. Either you get Della to come back willingly, or what? You kill her. The shaman's voice was cold. Once the blood heir is dead, the dire wolves will seek a new master. A sharp pain lanced through Nolan's chest. Kill Della? No, he shook his head. Absolutely not. Why not? Magnus stared at him coldly. She's our enemy now. Because? Nolan couldn't find a reason, only a primal instinct to refuse. Because she is mine. I will surely find another way. A messenger burst in. Alpha King. Urgent battle report. Speak. The Western Front has fallen. The enemy is advancing on the Alpha's Hall. Magnus' face went pale. How long until they arrive? Half a day at most. Magnus made a decision. You go to the Alpha's Hall and command the final line of defense. I'll go to the front. No, Nolan shook his head. The other way around. You go to the hall. I'm going to the front. Are you insane? Without the dire wolves, what are you going to fight Jaden with? I still have other warriors. A desperate madness burned in Nolan's eyes. And maybe if she sees me fighting on the front lines, for our pack she'll have a change of heart. She'll answer my call. She'll have a change of heart? Magnus scoffed. You're still dreaming. I have to try. Nolan turned to leave, but Skylar rushed after him. Nolan, I'm coming with you, she said, her voice firm. No matter what happens, I won't leave your side. Nolan stopped and looked back at her. This woman, when everyone else thought he was crazy, she was still willing to follow him. That he looked into her eyes, which shone with what he desperately wanted to believe was devotion. In that moment he clung to it. It's too dangerous, he said. I'm not afraid. She stepped in front of him, her eyes full of sincerity. Nolan, you're the only one I care about. Even if I die, I want to die with you. Looking into her devoted eyes, Nolan felt a surge of emotion. All right, he said, taking her hand. We'll go together. Her hand was a little cold, but he didn't think anything of it. He didn't notice the cold, vicious glint that flashed in her eyes the moment he turned his back at Della's POV. The battlefield was thick with smoke and the stench of blood. I sat astride my massive dire wolf on the ridge, looking down at the slaughter below. The Silver Moon Pack's lines were collapsing. Without the support of the dire wolf legion, they were like beasts with their claws and fangs torn out, helpless. Look, Jaden murmured, a smirk in his voice. Your ex is putting on a brave little show down there. I followed his finger. Nolan and Skylar were fighting side by side, their movements perfectly in sync. She would occasionally lean in and whisper something to him, and he would answer with a gentle smile. How touching, I sneered. Their bond is truly unbreakable. Jealous? Jaden teased. Jealous? I scoffed. I'm just enjoying the show. I raised my hand, signaling the dire wolf legion behind me. Time to show them what real power looks like. 30 massive beasts leaped from the ridge, each the size of a small hill. Their roar shook the battlefield, freezing every fighter in place. Nolan looked up at the ridge. When he saw me, he froze. Della, he said, his voice thick with disbelief. How could you? How could I be here? I rode down the slope, my voice a blade of ice. How could I be standing? On the other side. I stopped 10 paces from him. The man who once made my heart race now looked so pathetic. His armor was battered, his face smeared with blood, his eyes full of despair and confusion. This is the power you lost. I pointed to the dire wolves behind me. Without the call of my blood, that heart of the pack of yours is useless. A wave of immense regret washed over Nolan's face. He pushed Skylar away and dropped his weapon. He dropped to his knees, the sound of his armor clattering on the stones. I'll give you everything. My title, my life, all of it. Just come back to me, Della. Please. Looking at him like this didn't stir pity in my heart. Only disgust. It's too late. My voice was flat. Some things, once they're broken, can never be fixed. Desperation, then madness, flashed in Nolan's eyes. No. He shot to his feet, his alpha command exploding from him. You are mine. You can only be mine. The powerful psychic pressure crashed down on me. He was trying to break me with his power one last time. But I just stood there, unmoved. The dire wolves behind me let out a threatening growl. Their combined command was 1,000 times stronger than his. You think that will make me submit? I mocked. When his command failed, he lost what was left of his sanity. If I can't have you, then I'll destroy you myself. He shifted into his wolf form and lunged at me. His claws glinted, a death blow. I didn't move. That I knew he would never touch me. But just as his claws were inches from me, a flicker of cold steel flashed behind him. With a wet, sickening shunk, a silver dagger found its home between his shoulder blades, sinking to the hilt. Blood gushed out, staining the front of his armor. I'm sorry, my love, Skylar purred into his ear, her voice dripping with triumphant venom. The game is over. And you lose. He stared at the woman smiling coldly behind him, the love of his life. You, he choked, blood bubbling from his lips. Why? Nolan collapsed in a pool of his own blood, his life fading fast. He looked at Skylar, his eyes full of shattered love and despair. Why? He trembled. Everything between us was fake. Skylar walked over to him, looking down at him. Your kisses, your promises, your cheap love, it was all just a disgusting mission to me. She crouched down and lifted his chin with her finger. Did you really think you were so charming? A man who betrays his true love, a failure who doesn't even understand the source of his own power. Tears of blood streamed from Nolan's eyes. I loved you. Love me. Skylar laughed. Then why were you just begging that woman to come back? She stood up abruptly and kicked him in the face. You never loved me. You loved the power you thought you could control. With that, she walked gracefully to Jaden and knelt respectfully on one knee. My alpha, she reported, her voice clear and steady. The target has been eliminated. The Silver Moon heir is dead. Jaden nodded, satisfied. Well done. Then she walked to me, her eyes holding a complex mix of emotions. Della, I'm sorry, she said, her voice sincere. For the mission, I had to make you suffer through all that. I looked at her and shook my head. You don't need to apologize, I said calmly. He got what he deserved. Besides, I looked toward the towering Alpha's hall in the distance. The real enemy isn't dead yet. I swung myself onto my horse and galloped toward the hall. Behind me, the roars of the dire wolves shook the earth. Inside the Alpha's hall, Magnus was making his last stand. When I pushed open the heavy doors, he was standing before the altar, holding an ancient book. You're here, he said without turning. I knew you would be. Of course, I said, walking slowly toward him. I'm here to take your life. You think you've won. He held up the book, a crazed grin twisting his face. This is a forbidden blood curse. I will sever your link to the ancestors, unravel your bloodline until it is nothing but dust, and turn your precious dire wolves into mindless beasts that will feast on your corpse. And then what? I stopped 10 paces away. You think I can't kill you without them? At least we'll die together. A mad light gleamed in his eyes. If I can't have your power, then I'd rather destroy it all. Just like you killed my parents. My voice was a blade. You'll do anything to take what isn't yours. Your parents were fools. Magnus roared. They had all that power, and they were content to rot in this tiny pack. So you killed them? Yes. He didn't hide his hatred. I killed them, and I framed the Black Moon Pack so you would never suspect me. But you failed. I raised my hand, the pure power of my bloodline gathering in my palm. Now pay for your crimes. A wave of blood-red light filled the hall. Magnus never finished his spell. The power consumed him completely. His screams echoed through the empty hall, then fell silent. It was over. I walked out of the Alpha's hall. The pack's warriors were gathered in the square. Some looked afraid, some lost, but most looked relieved. The Silver Moon Pack is no more, I declared, my voice ringing across the square. Its name is poison, tainted by a traitor's reign. You are all free. Those who wish to leave, may the goddess guide your path. But for those who stay, for those who wish to forge something new from these ashes, something stronger, you follow me. Most chose to leave. Only a small group of loyal warriors and a few elders chose to stay. Jaden walked to my side. Can we talk about our mating now? He asked, his voice full of hope. I looked at him and gently shook my head. Jaden, I can't. Not now. I need to be more than just someone's mate. Disappointment flashed in his eyes, but it was quickly replaced by understanding. Why? Because I'm starting over, I said, looking to the horizon. I'm going to take my warriors and build a new world of our own. And what about me? He asked. Is there nothing between us? I turned to look at him, the man who helped me get my revenge. We can be allies, I said, offering him my hand. The strongest the world has ever seen. He took my hand, but instead of shaking it, he brought it to his lips, his eyes burning into mine. I didn't burn down a kingdom for an ally, Della, he murmured, his voice a low, dangerous rumble. I did it for my queen. Before I could react, he pulled me flush against his body, his mouth crashing down on mine in a hot, possessive kiss that stole the air from my lungs. He broke away, his breath ghosting over my lips. Run, little wolf, he growled, his voice a dark promise of the hunt. I will always find you. This is not over. Not until you wear my mark and take your throne by my side. Well, although the matter between us hasn't been settled yet, my new life has already begun. As for the outcome, let time be the one to leave. Now, I will embark on a new life with my strength and power.